And now it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Alicia Cheung Lichtenstein. Alicia is a principal and co-founder of studioHEIMAT, a full-service design firm based in San Francisco that works with some of the Bay Area's most influential families. Alicia, along with her co-founder, Eva Mueller-Bradley, started an all-women design firm that leverages the latest in techniques and technology in the design space. As a child of immigrants, Alicia went against the grain of seeking a stable professional career and feels grateful to have found a path of creative design that has become a flourishing business. Thank you, and let's welcome Alicia to the stage.
Hi, guys. Thank you so much for having me. The opportunity just to share the stage with all of these amazing women is really an honor, and I'm happy to share my own story with you guys today. So much of what they said and a lot of the themes that they kind of weaved in and out of, I feel like is definitely in my story as well. So let me start. In 2008, I held a clump of hair in my hands as I stared in the mirror at the bald spot in my scalp. I hadn't been sleeping well, tossing and turning most nights. I kept getting colds despite my usual healthy track record. My body was stressed. I'd come to hate my job, but I had no choice but to keep going. This story is not a new story. It's one that has been told over and over again for generations. You see, I am the child of immigrants, born to parents to whom pursuing passion was not an option. And this could have been my story too. I thought of them when I tried to persevere through these periods where my body was failing me. Persevere like my father, who turned his first job washing dishes in the college campus into a career into finance. Persevere like my mother, who left her tropical homeland of Malaysia to move to Arkansas in the cold, cold dead of winter to pursue a degree in accounting. The weight of expectation kept me persevering. The weight of expectation kept me persevering. But that weight was lifted when I would remember moments of joy, dreaming up new design schemes for my room in college every summer, sponge painting my walls to match my furniture when I was 7, or that time I convinced my mom it would be a good idea to let me buy a compound miter saw so that I could make my own floating shelves at the age of 15. We can go years, even lifetimes, without remembering what made our hearts smile. And so I realized that my parents didn't work so hard and persevere just that I would do the same thing. They had laid a great foundation for me, and that I might have a chance to redefine what was possible in our family was possible. Once I had lifted this burden of obligation and told my parents what I was thinking and my plans, they were a little bit surprised, but they eventually came around and were very supportive. And that's when I turned my passion into a profession and decided to pursue interior design. It was 2010. My best friend and I were snapping a photo in front of an all-black wall. She's in her tuxedo ball gown, and I am in a halter gown. She's sitting in a hooded black and red opulent chair, and I'm wearing a peacock mask and a miniature top hat. And there are contortionists and drag queens mixing with the upper crust of Pacific Heights and the Silicon Valley elite. And everyone's identities are masked at this party, and the music is pulsing through the air. This is through the physical, this evening was an extension of my day in which I had been at Presidio Heights, taking measurements and photos, designing options for an important family in San Francisco, talking to the design team about what we could do with this beautiful ceiling in the living room. So we were tossing ideas back and forth. Should we do a mural? Should we do a wallpaper? Perhaps a lacquered, bold color. In 2 years, I'd gone from sitting behind a cubicle to this amazing, fast-paced, crazy design world that was Ken Folk, the firm behind The Battery and some of San Francisco's most notable restaurants and houses of the San Francisco elite. Here are some slides of the loft itself, which is where I worked. It was a magical place. A photo of Ken, and that's me in the foreground with a couple other of our associates for a photo shoot for California Home and Design. It was my 4th internship while getting my degree in interior design, and it was here that I truly learned that design was more than just form and function. It really could be magic. Through the physical reality, we could create intangible emotion by changing the way people work, play, love, dream, and live. And every day at KFI was filled with a creative chaos. We were pushing new ideas and concepts, and we were also operating by the skin of our teeth in most cases. Some days, I had just a few hours to pull together a palette and a presentation for a last-minute client meeting that was going to happen later that afternoon. I knew that if I could find my voice at Kenfolk Inc., I could one day go off on my own. I worked hard, gaining promotions, until I became the most senior woman on the design team. It was 2015, and I was scared shitless. I sat in the car with Ava, my business partner, go over each element of our design presentation. We were parked outside the corner from our first client's house, our stomach tied in knots. This first project was a mid-sized home in Burlingame on a quiet cul-de-sac, and this couple had never hired a designer before. Just the week before, at our old jobs, we had been working on a family compound in Sonoma with a team of 20 people. Yet somehow, because I was no longer behind someone else's name, because I had declared to the world that I wanted to be my own boss, it felt that everything was laid out on the line. That knot in my stomach became a lump in my throat. What the hell did we just do? But when it's your own seedling of a dream, it feels like such a fragile little thing. Every seed needs soil and water and light, and so we walked into that home in Burlingame. We gave our first presentation, no longer as KFI, no longer as Alicia and Ava, but as studioHEIMAT. The pen glided across the paper, with my signature now wet in ink. Ava and I had just signed the lease for our newest and largest office yet, a 2,000 square foot space in the Nob Hill Tenderloin neighborhood. It's now 2018, and that scene in the car, that small seed of studioHEIMAT, has now turned into studioHEIMAT, a fully fledged design studio that embodies who we are and who we're becoming. We're finally able to put our mark on our studio, and it's become a reflection of our collective design voices. Our all-female team of 6, they're rock stars. They're each amazing in their own right, and we take the time to mentor them and nurture their skills and their knowledge. We also use the space to host nonprofit events of organizations that we believe in, or just gatherings of friends and family to bond a community beyond design. Here's some photos of our studio. It's the lounge, the bathroom. The studio space upstairs, workspace, a tented area that we have some meetings, take calls, and sometimes take a nap. And this is our entry with Batgirl, who reminds us every day to be a badass. So we've built a portfolio of great projects, mostly residential, with some bars and restaurants sprinkled in as well. This is a Russian Hill condo owned by an incredible woman who has broken through many of her own barriers. She's an avid art collector, and she buys pieces that bring a smile to her face. That's kind of her only requirement. She says that the portraits are like having friends greet her every evening when she comes home. So in this space, we designed the space around the art, and we wanted to balance everything in the art, the color and the energy and the vibrancy of them with something more toned down. So we have pretty much ivories here, but they're really balanced with the rich texture and material. She doesn't really cook much, so we created an all-white kitchen with all hidden components to continue that kind of calmness to balance out all of her art. So yeah, you see there's a lot more art behind those 2 walkways. This, by contrast, is Coin Op, which is on 4th and Bryant in Soma. It's just actually really close to here. It's 2 levels and 10,000 square feet of fun. It's a bar arcade, and we took inspiration from the movie Tron, both the original 1982 version and then the remake in 2010. Here you see the die wall in the front, comprised of a whole bunch of different vintage televisions, which we scoured the internet, eBay, Craigslist, sidewalk sales for months, traveling to Modesto even to pick one up. And we needed enough to fill 3 walls of the front of this bar. This is a photo of the entryway, octagonal steel beams and LED lights, and we really wanted to transform your frame of mind as you walked through into this space. This is a photo of what we called the garage because all of the car racing games were in this space, and we wanted to also continue that theme, so we have little toy cars that we've floated on airplane wire to act as a visual barricade to the staircase. This is the grid, which is the virtual reality part of the movie and also of our bar. It's on the 2nd level, and it's hidden by the entry, which is an old Tron game where you pull the joystick, the arcade opens, and that's actually the walkway in. And here's one of my most satisfying projects, redesigning my mom's home in San Jose, transforming her kitchen, this kitchen, into this kitchen. Yes, big change. So these are all wonderful projects with wonderful clients. You get also the not so great ones that sometimes teach you more about the kind of company you want to build. When you own your own company, you don't get to have a manager or a boss to give you feedback, and so you are constantly learning to self-evaluate. Outside of the typical processes, Ava and I have an annual planning brunch around the new year to talk about our goals for the next year, 5 years, 10 years. And during this time, we also reflect back on the previous year, and we kind of laugh at the outrageous goals we had, and we cheer to the ones that we accomplished. But we remind ourselves to be driven by joy and to not make decisions out of fear. I do thoroughly enjoy all the aspects of being a small business owner, struggling through the challenges and the missteps, which are many, and also celebrating the wins, both big and small. So it's November 2018, just 4 months ago, and Ava calls me practically screaming in my ear, "We got the showcase." So we found out that we were chosen to participate in the San Francisco Designer Showcase for 2019. We're now about 5 weeks from the final push before it's open to the public in late April. And we're excited for a room, which is a teenage twin girls' bedroom that we're calling Daydream Believin'. And there's something serendipitous about reflecting on these moments of joy that led me to think about designing my room as a kid, or if you could call it that as a kid, and as a teenager, and that's what led me to interior design in the first place. And now, for Showcase, we're doing a teenage room. And the design behind Showcase is that there are different designers chosen to do 1 room each, and so in this large house on Washington Street, 18,000 square feet, you're gonna walk through 40 different rooms and see 40 different designs, and by the end of it, your head's kind of spinning with so many ideas, and it's kind of all discombobulating, but it's really, really fun. So if you're at all into design, I would highly recommend going and checking it out. It runs from late April to late May. Here's a picture. This is a kind of close-up of our rendering of our room. And here's a picture of the participating designers. Each one is a principal designer. And as you look closer at it, I mean, I've looked at this photo many times, I started to notice that of all the principal designers, there's only 4 people of color. And of the 4 designers of color, they're all of Indian or Asian descent. And in the design community here, there's actually, it's pretty liberal. We have, a decent amount of people of color, but you can't help but notice that as you start climbing through the ranks of these design firms, and then at the level where there's owners and principals, the landscape becomes more and more pale. And perhaps it's a question of opportunity, perhaps it's a question of access, perhaps there are many people like myself 10 years ago who felt like they had to persevere instead of following their passion. And perhaps there are a few future principal designers here, in which case, come talk to me after. So when I chose to pursue interior design, I redefined what was possible in my family. When I became the most senior woman in design at KFI, I helped normalize what women's roles were going to be in that, at that company, and since then there's been a lot of women who have had more senior roles than I had. When Ava and I decided to start our own company, we kind of blazed our own path and redefined ourselves as entrepreneurs. And now with our new studio and showcase, we're really looking forward to this next chapter. And with each evolution, I'm always trying to remember to listen to my body, to be driven by joy and not by fear, to learn from others, like these incredible women here who shared their stories with us today, and to be open to the next opportunity to redefine what is possible. Thank you.